Welcome to MGAA Conversations, our new podcast channel where we'll be discussing with an exciting number of guests all things related and topical within the ever-growing MGA community.
Hello and welcome to our latest MGAA Conversations podcast, a year in review. I am your host, Joe Malone, part of the MGAA comms team, and I'm delighted to be joined by MGAA Chief Executive Mike Keating.
Good afternoon, Joe.
And Chief Operating Officer Julia Coakley.
Hi, Joe.
Thank you both for your time. And Mike, 2024 has been another busy year in the world of insurance and MGAs specifically. Has the market trended the way that you expected it to this year?
I think there's a number of things I would sort of comment on. Number one, the rating environment across the market has still been positive across most sectors. Obviously for brokers in terms of placing clients, in terms of MGAs and insurers. That trend for that market is starting to come off a little bit in 2025. I think the MGA sector in particular has been very, very buoyant, both with the introduction of new MGAs. We've only got to look at the association's own insurer membership tier, which is close to 66, 67 now, which shows how keen insurers are to partner with MGAs and deploy capital, and there's a whole host of reasons on that, which no doubt we'll come on to. So I think in terms of when I look at it, I think it's gone pretty much as we'd expect. There's been some headwinds around claims inflation. Service to brokers is still a challenge, certainly for insurers, but not for MGAs, and exciting for 2025.
Absolutely. Well, I'll come straight back to you. What would you say the biggest challenge has been this year for MGAs to deal with?
I think the challenge for MGAs this year, and I wouldn't say it's necessarily a headwind. I think the important thing for MGAs at all costs is to protect their capital. So in order to remain in business, they have to have third-party capital. They have to have strong partnerships with their insurers. They have to ensure they're delivering to the target loss ratio or financial model which they've agreed with their insurers. And they have to ensure that they maintain their underwriting discipline, deliver underwriting returns for their capital, but continue to innovate, continue to engage with their broker distribution. And I think that they've done that exceedingly well this year. I think if you look at challenges on the horizon, and I would sort of move into 2025 on that is where the rating adequacy is starting to come off a little bit. So it's important that MGAs maintain their underwriting discipline going into 2025 if rating becomes more softer from that perspective. I think there's a bit around regulation in terms of ensuring that they remain fit for purpose from a regulatory and governance perspective. But overall, sort of moving out of 2024 into 2025, the MGA sector is thriving and extremely buoyant, and I don't expect that to change at all.
Brilliant. Do you think, Julia, that MGAs are in a stronger position now, compared to the beginning of the year in terms of their place in the market?
They absolutely are. Just to complement what Mike said, the stability of our membership in terms of insurers who are in place to, if not immediately to deploy capital, they want to keep a close alignment on what MGAs are doing and what's happening in that space. But also investment companies, we see a lot of interest from investment companies who are looking to provide risk capital to MGAs. Along with that, I think the interest in entrepreneurs, underwriters looking to create MGA startups, I think that's evidence in itself that it's a great market to enter into. And obviously anything that generates interest then subsequently generates wider interest and puts you in the public eye, which can only be a good thing for MGAs.
Absolutely. As recently as November, we saw the FCA update its regulation on non-financial misconduct in insurance firms. We know regulation is a good thing, but it can be difficult for MGAs to keep on top of and avoid making mistakes. How well do you think the market has responded to regulatory updates, and what good examples have you got of best practice?
I think your question is absolutely spot on. So everybody embraces and accepts regulation is the right thing. It's the right thing for customer outcomes. It's the right thing that there's regulation across all of our industry, both to sort of serve the consumer and to protect the consumer. The key challenge and the key question is around proportionality. Is that proportionality at the right level ensuring that it's not stifling innovation. And when I talk about innovation, it's not stifling the introduction of new products into the market because the bar is too high. Number one. Number two, that the expense for which increasing regulation does not become a burden on the industry. And both ourselves and BEBA have commented around increasing regulation, how that can impact innovation and impact business models from that perspective. So I think one of the good things the association has got on behalf of members is an excellent relationship with the FCA. I had a call with them this morning on a number of different topics. And the fact that we have that open dialogue and what I call, very much linked to this, a conversation with the regulator in terms of what our members are feeling, whether that proportionality is correct, is healthy for both the MGA and its own members, but also across the market. So I think that, my answer is that dialogue we will certainly continue. It's an open dialogue with the regulator. They're very keen to ensure that continues at a regular occurrence. That gives us the opportunity to highlight areas where we feel there should be some movement, perhaps in the assist our members, but at the same time we're there to listen to the regulator for them to say to us we have concerns in particular areas, so therefore we can work with them ensuring that we highlight that with our members. So it's to be fair, Joe, it's going to be a debate which is not going to go away. It's going to be a question at every podcast around proportionality on regulation. And I think the right answer is where we are as an association now, is having that conversation and open dialogue about, what is right and where proportionality is best.
Yeah. So let's talk about the MGAA then. So, reflecting on this last year, how pleased have you been with the growth of the MGAA, and what's been your proudest achievement personally?
Oh, and just incredibly pleased with the growth of the MGAA. We're only as good as the proposition that we set forward and that we deliver, and we can only put together the proposition by listening to our members to understand what it is they actually want from their association, and we're very much their association. So, you can't get better than having new members wanting to join all the time, positive feedback from existing members, or reinforcing the fact that you're doing the right thing over and over. So say the growth of the membership is based on our activity. And, if you think about a commercial business, commercial business is in the market to make money. We're a not-for-profit, so we're not looking to make money. We can only be measured by the satisfaction of our members. And as I say, the growth into membership has been excellent. The feedback, the input from our members on what we should be doing going forward, the forward thinking in terms of the enhancements of our propositions, such as our DE&I programme, our mental health in business programme. Again, it's all listening to what the members want and making sure that we're agile enough to deliver to their expectations and to help them flourish as a business, because these businesses are majority entrepreneurial. They need the association to support them in these areas, and we can be a bit of a buffet. We're not going to be all things to all men, but we hope that we're delivering in certain areas that do benefit each and every member in its own way.
Yeah,
I think I'll just add to that in terms of, and June and I sort of want to agree on this. The growth of the MGAA is driven by the service and delivery by the executive team headed up by Julia, but in addition in terms of the membership proposition. So we don't look and say each year we need to grow by 20 members or 25 members. That's not what we're here for in terms of that sort of metric as such. What we want to see is that MGAs, insurers and suppliers feel they want to be a member of the association, and therefore whilst we do sort of proactive sort of contacts in terms of people we see who are acting as an MGA, we want to ensure that any business would say, I want to be a member of the association and come to us because of the membership proposition and what we provide, as well as the complementary where we'll contact people sort of proactively. But it's quite important, I think, for this particular podcast that we're not as an association solely looking at we have to grow by 20, 30, 40 or 50, because it's just as important that we deliver a service and a proposition for our existing members, as well as attracting new. And we'll never lose sight ever of our existing core 400 plus members who we provide a sort of service to and a membership benefit proposition to, as well as inviting sort of new members to come on board.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, operating in this market doesn't come without its challenges, though, Julia. And so, what has been MGA's biggest challenge this year?
I think, although it has been a challenge, I don't think we've not overcome it. But I think probably most important to us is making sure that we're agile to respond to what's going on in the market, and particularly in terms of the regulatory and compliance landscape. So, it's from feedback that we conduct every other year to our members to understand what it is that's important to them. It's always been evidence that it's compliance and the support in the compliance arena, and being able to have a voice to lobby the policymakers, the FCA, the CBI, to make sure that there isn't, as Mike said, disproportionate regulation that actually stops them from being entrepreneurial and innovative. So I'd say, it has come with its challenges to make sure that we're delivering perhaps a round table to respond to a market trend or a matter that's become evident that has had a growing concern for MGAs. But I'd like to think that we've overcome that suitably.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, how have the MGA's committees fared this year? So, what achievements stand out to you, Mike?
Well, I suppose the committees are there really on behalf of our members to ensure that we have good governance, we have good oversight in terms of what the executive team are doing, number one. Secondly, the fact that we have a lot of experience across those committees, so there's a great opportunity to sort of draw on that experience in terms of things which perhaps we as an executive team aren't fully aware of. So if you look at our sort of legal compliance and ethics committee, touching on Julia's comment, we've been at the cutting edge in terms of the regulatory sort of landscape and how we can most importantly address members' concerns now, but probably even more importantly look at what may be coming down the track, right, and therefore prepare ourselves that we can put on a webinar or provide a circular to members saying, don't wait for this is happening, so address that now. Our membership and benefits committee, as you'd expect, has been particularly busy given the growth of members. But that's also very important in terms of ensuring that what we're doing around our membership proposition is the right thing. So that's been very buoyant. Our finance committee is important. That's important oversight and governance. So I won't sort of touch on that for too long. And again, our conference and sponsorship committee in particular, given that our conference this year, attracted over 1,200 delegates, and our sort of MGAA broker exchange in London attracted over 700 delegates, that is a committee which is again very buoyant in terms of how we manage our events and the themes we put on and how we deploy member money for the benefit of those events. So all of the committees have been extremely important in providing guidance, the right governance and oversight. But at the same time, the executive committee, the executive team in particular, has that autonomy to move quickly and to meet members' needs at the same time. So we have a good balance in terms of that relationship with the committees.
Brilliant. How about MGA's events then, Julia? I'm sure you want them to be bigger and better every year. Have they met expectations this year?
They definitely have. Certainly this year's conference, which is, as Mike says, that's our flagship event, have definitely been bigger in terms of footfall. We would always look to improve, and that would only be based on member feedback. In terms of bigger, I wouldn't necessarily say we're looking for more footfall. I just think that's almost a byproduct of
higher quality,
ensuring that we're listening to members and what they want. And again, as we've said a couple of times now, market trends, what's going on, horizon scanning, alluding to Mike's comment regarding compliance. So bigger comes naturally with better. But again, we really do in that instance live and die on feedback. And it's interesting, there's the phrase, victim of your own success. I think the consistent, interestingly, feedback we've had is it's too busy, which I think that's in terms of the space, and as we know, costs continue to increase in every area, including event space. So we have to be really mindful of members' monies that we're spending there. We need to get the best value out of the venues that we choose. But as I say, not necessarily bigger, certainly better. busy is not the worst thing in the world because, we like to get that footfall.
Yeah.
But actually, again, going back to the feedback piece, to respond to members' views. So historically, we've had an event called Meet the MGA Market. We've had that annually, historically, and it was always a regional event. I think back in the day when maybe the MGAA was a little bit perceived as London-centric, I think with the event of COVID and hybrid and us retaining the hybrid format in many of the events that we put on, we tried London for our what we renamed Broker Exchange for the first time this year. Incredibly well attended, based on feedback, very successful. So, off of the back of that, we're looking to keep our London Broker Exchange and move into also adding a regional event again, and that's only on the call of members. So, I think Mike coined the phrase, cheesy as it is, some time ago, your feedback is our future, but there's truth in that phrase.
Absolutely. I'm just going to put you both on the spot for a second. So you mentioned feedback. I mean, you've just talked about a few things that, they're too busy, for example. What's the one piece of feedback you've both looked at and thought, I really like that, and that's something that I'm going to take forward next year? I'll start with you.
Oh, great question. I think probably the calibre of the panels that we put on, and I have to say, kind of thanks to Mike, he's quite innovative and again very thoughtful about what would be of interest to members. So whilst it's not necessarily what we'll take on, I think it just evidences that it's incredibly important for us to be talking about topics that are relevant to MGAs, and that MGAs, it will really enhance their understanding of the shape of the market, the progression of the market. So I'd say, possibly I like that feedback that on the panels and how they might progress in the future.
Yeah, feedback that stands out to you, Mike.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I think Julia's more than aptly covered sort of feedback on our event, sort of what we call our events pillar. What I would look at, and something we are looking at in 2025, is the collateral we produce for members. So there's a strong argument that we may produce too much collateral.
Okay.
I'd probably be in a position I'd rather inform more than inform less from that perspective. But I think what we are going to do as a team is probably just have a sort of an assessment of the amount of collateral, the quality of collateral, how much of it our membership really look at from that in terms of open rates and that bit. So I think if we were hopefully doing the same conversation at this time next year, then I think what we would be saying is that the effort and work we've put in around assessing our collateral has been very worthwhile and well received by members, in the fact that A, it's timely, B, it's relevant, and C, it's actually exactly what they want from us. From that bit. So that's something we as a team will look at in terms of the collateral piece, I think.
Brilliant. So Mike mentions collateral there, Julia. Looking ahead to next year, what can your existing members, and potential new members as well, what can they expect to get from the MGAA that's different to what they could get right now?
I don't necessarily think we're aiming to be different for the sake of being different. So it will be very much listening to what's going on again in the market, some horizon scanning, what's coming up that is going to be important to MGA members. But I think something that's always going to be a focus for us is the relationship that we have with the regulator. Yeah. So we've got a very good relationship with the CBI, with the FCA. We want to be aligned with what's going on, how we can influence on behalf of our members. So I think not necessarily looking at what's different, but how we can improve on those areas that are important to our MGA members currently and, into the future.
Good answer. So finally, Mike, what's the one thing you would love to see the MGA explore or provide to its members that at present you're not able to at the moment?
That's another good question. I think it's for us to, when we go out for research for our members, it's for us to really, for them to inform us those particular areas. We're not, and would never be complacent, and dare I say arrogant to say this is what you want and this is what we're providing. Where we've developed our proposition over the last sort of 3 to 4 years, which is underpinned by the growth which Julia's referenced, is the fact that everything we've done has actually been based around sort of comprehensive research, where members have said we would like you to both prioritise and spend members' money in this area, and compliance was absolutely a headline one. Events was another one from that perspective. I think for me personally, something I am looking to explore for 2025 is potentially the creation of sort of advisory groups. Mm-hmm. Because if you look at the composition of our membership, where we have small MGAs, medium MGAs, and some very, very large MGAs who are effectively more or less insurers in their own right, effectively in terms of their size, what we've sort of recognised as an executive team is that the needs and demands of those particular MGAs are different, and that's been no surprise. So one of the things we may want to look is perhaps create a couple of advisory groups who will represent their particular segment, and therefore that would allow us probably more on a more quicker basis to actually ensure that our membership proposition at that segment is actually exactly what MGAs of that particular size require. Because if you look at a small MGA, they will have different demands and needs than maybe one which is 20 times the size. And what we need to ensure is that continuous improvement to ensure that our proposition, the size of our proposition and what's in there, is meeting the needs of those individual members as they evolve. So that is something certainly for 2025 we'll be looking at to see how we can implement that. Yeah.
I'm going to ask one more question, Julie, if you don't mind. So your membership directory, as it were, is very healthy. We've seen lots of new members join recently. But in terms of potential new members next year, what's the one reason why they should join the MGAA?
Because we listen to what they want, and therefore we can deliver what they need to be a successful, efficient, profitable business.
Great place to wrap. Well, thank you very much, Julia. Mike, congratulations again on a brilliant 2024, and all the best for 2025.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks, Joe.
Many thanks for listening. We welcome all feedback, so please get in touch with your suggestions on topics and future guests. Please don't forget to subscribe on your chosen platform so that you don't miss out.